The question that I have today is, what does it mean to be yourself? So first, I guess, there's a few different things I want to talk about. First, I guess what people generally mean when they say be yourself, and then the reasons that we don't act like ourselves. So what do people usually mean when they say be yourself? I think that what people usually mean when they say just be yourself, that kind of thing, is don't try to change your personality to suit other people, or don't change things about yourselves in order for people to like you. So that's what people usually mean by it. So what are we really trying to do when we change who we are to be liked? So let's think of it this way. What makes people like other people? I think that what makes one person like another person is that they feel a connection with them, or they connect with them in some way, have some kind of thing that they both have in common, or something that they can agree upon, something like that. So, what we're trying to do when we change who we are to suit other people or to be liked, even in a very superficial way, is that we want them to feel like we have connected with them, even when we haven't. But the thing is, you're not looking for a real connection. What you're looking for is a false connection. For them to feel connected to you so you can feel liked or feel in or whatever. So, what we're trying to do when we don't act like ourselves is we're trying to connect to people in a false way. So, I've really been thinking about this, and this connects to Wednesday's video yesterday, that how do we make a real connection with other people in the sense that we can have a mutuality with them and feel with them in a way that is authentic to who we are. So we do not change who we are in order to connect with other people. So I guess a question that I'm also asking is, how do we find common ground with other people in order to connect with other people in a way that is true to who we ourselves are? I think that the trick is basically just to find something that you two can connect upon or agree upon, and that you shouldn't pretend to be or act like something that you aren't in order for that to happen. You shouldn't change your personality in order to better know someone else. However, I think that we naturally do tailor our personality to who we're talking about, in a sense that it doesn't completely change who we are. It's natural to us. Like when I'm talking to my friends, different friends that I'm talking to will bring out different parts of me. And that's just the way it goes. Neither one of them is more or less me, but they are all different facets of me. And I think what we have to do is be able to engage with the people we are with in a way that makes sense to them, or be able to realize what part of yourself will be able to connect with another person, and to not act like something that you aren't, but be able to act in a way that they will be able to understand, in a way that they will be able to relate to. Now, I know that's really vague and really confusing, but that's my take on how we can connect with other people while still being ourselves. Now, another thing about being yourself is I'm thinking about con- connecting being yourself with being who you would like to be, or being who you want to be. Now, this is different from who you ought to be, which we'll talk about a little later, but being yourself in terms of who you would like to be. Now, being myself, in a sense, would mean that I was lazy and I didn't really put a lot of effort into a lot of things, which in some sense I kind of do. In some sense, I am lazy and don't do things that I ought to do, but in another sense, I make myself do the things I don't want to do because that is what I want. I want to be someone who is disciplined. Now, being myself, I wouldn't necessarily be disciplined, but I want to be disciplined. So I don't think that just be yourself means just be who your natural inclination is to be. I think it has to do with personality, but not necessarily with certain aspects of your character, like your discipline and things like that. Now, how do we connect being yourself with being who you ought to be? Now, this really interests me in terms of my interactions with other people, because I put a pretty high premium on being honest, not just in words, but in different senses, in different sense of how I act or how I come across and how I think. So I think that we ought to be honest with what we think and feel and how we want to interact with other people, but I'm not sure how that affects how we ought to act. Like, naturally, being myself is to be kind of rebellious and very, very questioning of what the people placed in authority think of me, or what they think, and being very not, I guess, not having a lot of respect for their authority and not taking for granted what they say is right without questioning it. Well, in some sense, I think that's a good thing, but in another sense, I think that I ought to have more respect for authority than I do, and I ought to show that respect, even though I don't necessarily want to respect them. So being myself would be kind of disrespectful towards authority, but I think that I ought to be something else. So it seems like being what you ought to be is more important than being yourself. But somehow it seems dishonest sometimes to do the things I know I ought to do when being myself would not have me do it, or when I don't really want to do it. So this video is kind of confused and all very vague, but I'm just going to sum it up, or finish soon, that being yourself, I guess, has to do with your personality rather than with the necessary traits that you have, and that in some sense you do have to, or that you do naturally tailor who yourself is in order to connect with other people. But there's a difference between showing different parts of yourself to different people and inventing parts of yourself to suit other people. If you change your essential personality or change what you're interested in order to connect with other people, you're creating a false connection that they might not realize it's false, but you realize it's false, and you haven't really connected or have any mutuality with another person when you've invented a facet of yourself in order to connect with them. So, I guess that's it.